Welcome.
Welcome, everybody, to the April 9th meeting of the Salem Public Art Commission. We've got a lot of visitors today and commissioners, and we usually start with just kind of introducing ourselves briefly and maybe your affiliation, why you're here. And should we start, maybe we go around the table this way, like, what is that, counterclockwise? And then to the Zoom folks. So,
Yeah, hi, I'm just off the camera. Sat here on purpose. My name is Aaron Kimsey. I'm an assistant city engineer with the city of Salem, one of three. And I'm here to present on two topics, Eco Earth Globe and the Civic Center project.
My name's Tony O. I'm an engineer associate here at the city of Salem, and I'm here assisting Aaron with the Eco Earth Globe project.
I'm Carol Snyder, president of Salem Parks Foundation, and I'm here to listen about the Eco Earth.
I'm Linda Beerley, the treasurer of the Salem Parks Foundation, and I'm here to listen as well.
Chris Darcy, Commissioner.
he's an APAC commissioner.
Crystal, our Commissioner.
Brandon Kolkazi, AIC Staff Assistant for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Sir,
Spencer Emmerich, Commissioner.
I'm Carl Roth, Commissioner.
and Kathleen stepped out for a second.
Yeah, she's grabbing Brian.
Oh, okay, we have one more commissioner that's arrived. So we'll just wait, I won't
Here
call
they
for
are.
public comment yet, okay. Hey, Brian. Brian, just quickly introduce, we're doing introductions. You're next.
I'm next, like right now?
Yes, yeah.
Brian Hart, Commissioner.
Okay, great. Public comment, do we have any public comment today?
None that I have received.
Okay, great. I'm gonna make a motion to approve today's agenda and the minutes from the March 12th meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And opposed or abstaining? Motion's passed. Discussion items, let's jump right into Eco Earth Globe repair and restoration, Aaron and Tony.
Great, yeah, thanks.
Sure.
So we were, where do I begin? We were tasked, last year with, or in the last year, with providing an update on the Eco Earth Globe and, coming up with an opportunity to try to, do a conservation project for the Eco Earth Globe. So for those that don't know, back in 2020, a consultant was hired named ARG, and they put together a report with some recommendations about the Eco Earth Globe at the time. And so what we knew even back then was that the globe was deteriorating and tiles were falling off. We were seeing a lot of growth, organic growth on it. And there was a desire to create a project that could make some improvements to it. And so as part of that report, they came up with two options. Again, this is part of that 2020 report. One option was to essentially conserve the Eco Earth Globe and do whatever repairs we could do to try to extend the life of the globe. And that was to their estimate was about $500,000 to do that work at that time. Another option, which was a lot more intensive, which was essentially kind of reconstructing the globe at the time. Doing this is a remnant of the globe before the tiles was a remnant of the Boise Cascade paper mill plant. And so there is some abatement that there's some asbestos on the globe. And so removing the tiles and essentially kind of starting over was gonna be labor intensive and require abatement. And that, the city put together an estimate for that work to be just over $1 million at that time. And I will caveat that that $1 million estimate was put together by engineering staff here in Public Works. And we are not artists or conservators. And so we took our best guess and got some input from some experts, but I always felt like we didn't have a really good understanding of the total cost and the work that would be required as part of that effort. So we decided to move forward with option one, which was a conservator project, and some money was identified in the city CIP. The Parks Foundation was hitting the streets for fundraising, and even acquired a grant that was going to help fund the project. As we were given the project kind of came back to us this year, and the question was, well, do we have enough money to do the project? And what would that look like? And again, the concerns that we had were, okay, it's been 5 years, and what has gotten worse, if anything? Is option one still a viable option? So we rehired ARG, and they went out. So we asked them to provide a revised report and a revised estimate for the work, including any options if they've changed. And so they recently were able to go out. These are recent pictures from their analysis. It's, you don't have to be an expert to know that it's gotten worse. But
Extremely.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, so I don't have good news to present. I shared the same news with the Parks Foundation earlier this week. Essentially, what ARG is telling us at this point is we really no longer have a conservator project. The only viable option we have right now is kind of a full reconstruct, which is going to be more expensive and would include abatement of the globe. And so what they told us though, they provided the person that did the analysis is a person that has lots of experience in this type of work and would be the person that has experience in actually doing the work. And I don't know for certain, I can't say for certain, but I feel like this person, I wish they would have been a part of the 2020 report, because we might have gotten the same answer then that we have now. Granted, the globe has gotten worse. What they found in their analysis is, obviously we have biological growth, that's easy to see, but the reason we have that is because pretty much anything that could have been done incorrectly was done incorrectly as part of the initial construction. They used a really thin mortar set, which is okay, but it was applied, it exceeded its workable time, and then the tiles were applied, and then they used inadequate bonding. Some of the pictures you can see, they didn't do a proper what they call like a backer butter.
Back butter.
Back butter. They used an open cell backer rod at the expansion joints, which has led to water retention. They used an improper expansion joint material that basically is acting like a sponge and soaking into water. And so all of those items that were done back then have created what we have today. So we're getting a lot of water infiltration. It's getting stuck back there behind the tiles. It's creating space for the biological growth to grow. We're getting a lot of that freezing and thawing expansion that's causing the tiles to pop off. And so that's why they're basically saying right now is, if we were to do a Band-Aid fix on this, it wouldn't be money well spent. It would just be a Band-Aid and it wouldn't last as long as it wanted to. So at the time when I was scheduled this was, I didn't know this. This is just brand new information to us last week. And so we're continuing to have ARG work on the final report. and a new estimate, and we should be getting those documents in mid to late May. And so, essentially what I wanted to do is be able to present this to you so you're aware of it. Be happy to come back or share the results from their final report. I think the question that I have, that staff has, is what direction do we want moving forward? Do we, depending on costs, obviously, do we say we want to go ahead and try to do a reconstruction, raise more money, depending on what happens with the levy? If it were to pass, we might have some opportunity to do something. If it doesn't pass, then this probably isn't gonna happen anytime soon, because of the priorities that we have. And so, that's one option, is we move forward with the reconstruct. The conservator did say that with that, part of the reason why it's so expensive is to remove the tiles intact is gonna be extremely difficult, and you're gonna have a certain amount of loss on those, and so they'll have to be recreated. And so that just adds to the labor intensiveness, and then like the restoration and putting them back on. Personally, I think it would be cheaper. I haven't asked this of ARG, but to me, intuitively, it seems like it would be cheaper to just, decommission the art, sadly, and say we're gonna start over and remove the tiles and either do something different at the Globe, or do a painting that matches what was there before. And again, me thinking totally, this is not my city hat, but just personal hat, like, what if we took the tiles that are there and created kind of an homage to what was there before, to kind of represent and remind folks of what the Globe looked like prior. Again, I think there's a lot of ideas that you guys probably have some better ideas on that, but yeah, I think that's really what we wanted to share, and kind of go from there. So
Let's say we did go with the reconstruction, let's just say we had.
Mhm.
Is there any prediction about how long that would last? I mean, it's metal, I've heard from an artist who's a ceramic artist that even if you do it well, it will eventually still deteriorate again.
Yeah.
We
We certainly could ask ARG that question. I mean, you're right, it is a metal structure, and so by nature, it's going to continue to expand and contract. I think what I've heard from ARG is that if done properly the first time, we would have gotten a lot more life. And the other thing that's really important for a piece like this is proper maintenance, right? I mean, you're gonna likely get biological growth like anything in our environment. And so going out there and removing that is just like your roof of your house, right? I mean, you gotta go out there and remove it, and if you don't, you're gonna end up with this, and shingles are going off, and you got a leaky roof. So I think that'll be one thing for us to consider. That was actually part of the original 2020 report, was ARG said, whatever you do, you need to do maintenance. And so that's something that the city park staff or parks budget has never had any type of budget for. And quite frankly, I think, speaking on behalf of parks, they're not they're not artists, they're not art conservators. I think they wanted to like not touch that with a 10-foot pole. Like, we don't want to, that's a lot of liability. And so considering that, like what would we have opportunities for maintenance? What could we do that would be low term, or low cost, long-term maintenance, that kind of thing.
It's nice to see you again.
Yes.
I was on SPAC when the first, alarm was sounded about the condition of the Echo Earth Ball. At that point, it was obvious that the city had not done any kind of preventive maintenance. Our climate is such, and climate change is such, that the Globe was just subjected to I think more temperature variations than anyone ever expected. It rains a lot. This is in full exposure. It is really sad that no action was taken 5 years ago. Because at that time, and I was there when the conservator was up on a lift looking at the top of the globe, that the city just didn't have the resources to take enough action so that at that time, the recommendation was if the thing can be resealed, if, and then if there is proper maintenance, it would have been an every 7-year process or cycle to reseal it, clean it, what have you. So where that door is gone now. Some of the things we talked about at the time, and there were some pretty creative people serving on SPAC, was to, could this be replicated? So, you go to a place like, a Disney property or Epcot. I mean, in the 21st century, this globe could be recreated in some kind of a synthetic material that would withstand, that would have no cracks, no joints. And, it would have the same visual look and feel at the end of Riverfront Park as this would. We didn't, at that point, we were assuming that, all right, fundraising is gonna happen. We're gonna prevent further decay, which had, the amount of moss is just shocking for you to see. We talked about also, this is not the only mosaic that the city has that's awaiting attention. Because the Peace Mosaic, another large example of stuff that suffers from our climate, which we're not gonna change at this point. That hasn't still, we don't even have a site for reciting it at this point. Yeah, I don't know. When you think about fundraising, let's just say it's $2 million.
Oh, wow.
Or more, let's, whether you're gonna recreate it on the scale that it is, or create some kind of a shrine to the Echo Earth Globe, which I don't think is a good idea. Because the scale of this is what I think is part of its value, kind of inherent value. I'm not sensing right now that our city is ready to take on this project when right now the future of the very park that this sits in is up in the air. And I'm connected to the projects that are slated for funding in Salem from the legislature this year. So the Elsinore Theater has 2 big projects. The Bomber out at the airport is another big project. Salem Art is trying to do something significant with the Bush House, which is also owned by the city. And those are only the cultural projects. So, there's plenty of need in the sheltering people and community service arena. So I'm very pleased to hear that the city re-engaged ARG. If you're gonna find a consultant working in the state of Oregon, they're very, very solid. That's good. And I think they're also very honest and realistic. They'll give you, here's what you got. It's not great news. This is just really sobering. Just because I forget what I was looking at, maybe something from another completely unrelated organization. And there was either a map of Marion County or the city. And guess what? One of the iconic elements, the globe.
All these things, yeah.
So
It shows up in every photograph.
I know.
It's like this presence.
I agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, others might have, so I would hope just that you could, when you get the report from ARG, you would come back to a meeting, and I'm so glad that both of you are here from the Parks Foundation. And I did note that the walk in the park is gonna benefit the Echo Earth Globe.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
For the last 3 years it has.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, we're hard at it. But this week we got $700 for the Eco Earth event.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it keeps coming. People care about that structure. They really do.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just think, Aaron, what, you know, I think we are 10 minutes or whatever, I don't know if your time can. But I mean, this is really important and it deserves a lot of time, but I think if you could come back to us
Absolutely.
with, you know, the recommendations, and also, I mean, I would be curious, it would be horrible to have to lose the art. But I'd be curious about, you know, if it does have asbestos that needs to be abated, I mean, I think that's pretty serious. And also, let's say we had to let go of the tiles and everything, and but still have the ball, that acid ball is an interesting piece there, and it's part of the history of Salem also. And I think that would need to be like cleaned up and, you know, prepared so that it could be a monument itself. And how much that would cost to do that, to get all the, you know, the glue and whatever, all the stuff off of it, so that it's presentable as a piece in itself. I'd be curious about that.
Yeah, I think we could certainly have ARG kind of extrapolate that that figure out, because it's gonna be ultimately, it would be part of a full reconstruct. They would just be, wouldn't be putting tiles back on. And so it would really be like, okay, what would it cost to remove, abate, and then have a blank slate essentially, either as just
Right.
the acid ball to represent some history, or if at some future date, someone decided they wanted to do something new, then you'd have that.
And the first report, as I remember, had the cost for removing the globe completely. And pulling.
It did not, I
No,
think,
it did,
yeah,
Oh, it did.
but another report was done that did estimate that, and I was trying to find my stuff on that.
yeah,
And-
we can
and-
look in our files and see if we have anything
And
that
it came
references.
to like, this one came up $400 and some thousand, and the removal because of the asbestos abatement and everything being needed and just getting rid of it, was gonna be something like $650,000. That was back then.
Right.
And so.
Right.
But that might be an option too. That might be asking them about too, possibly.
Yeah,
To remove it.
Yeah, to just remove
That would be a
it.
shame, I think it's.
Well, I agree, but you know.
Just a note.
Having
all
all,
that.
yeah, as an option.
I would also mention, I don't know what they would say, but because of the historical context, I'm sure like Kimberly Fitzgerald, our city archaeologist, she might have some, and even the tribes, they've been very interested in Riverfront Park, not only from their like ancestry past, but also they've been interested in the paper mill itself, because it was an employer of a lot of you know, their history and just as its history. So they're viewing it from kind of two lenses, like from the like ancient historical kind of pre-contact, but then also the more recent. So we could hear from them saying, you know, we don't want you to remove it, we want you to just keep it because it represents history that we don't want to lose sight of. So
This is a city of Salem landmark. Just a reminder.
absolutely, yeah, no,
Right,
it's, like you
as
said, it's in a
is.
lot of pictures, and I think when people think of Riverfront, this is one of the first things that probably comes to mind. Now it's been morphing with the bridge and the amphitheater, but certainly from day one or from early 2000s, this has been it.
Well, please, you know, when you do find out more information,
Okay.
let us know the details and we can talk about it.
As many options as you can give back as far as what the pricing for different scenarios are would be very helpful. Thank you.
Moving on, we still have the floor, city center construction.
This could be a shorter topic, I think. Yeah, so as you, I'm sure are all aware, the bond that was passed by voters in 2022 now, gosh, it's flying by, included $40 million roughly, I'm rounding up, $40 million to improve seismic retrofit and improve system and components of the civic center. And so that work is in design and actually nearing the end of design, where we're gonna be moving towards construction starting in July. And so I kind of had a couple topics I wanted to bring to you all today. The first one is how we handle the existing art that's within the building. So there are, Kelly's in an inventory of what exists on top of kind of a spreadsheet that we had already was aware of. And I think also there's some art that's technically not part of the collection. And so just trying to understand, for the library, as you may recall, there was a lot of art there. And similarly, we had to remove it and either store it or find a new home temporarily. And to make sure that it was safe and undamaged. And so the Library Foundation and this group was instrumental in kind of navigating that artwork as part of the library project. And so I wanted to come to you all today and say, we need your help again. We don't have the Library Foundation on our side. But we need to look at how we move the art, where we move the art, whether storage or temporary relocation on display. And it sounds like there have been some preliminary conversations with the library, and they're, I think, willing to showcase some of it.
Consider it at least, yeah.
Yeah, consider it. And so, so I think that's really, if you want to want to share pictures or.
I mean, potentially we can share pictures. There's a number of, I think the majority of the pieces are going to be 2D paintings and such. There are a couple sculptures, one large sculpture that's attached to the exterior of Civic. I think for something to note for the commission is that placement of art is the responsibility of the city manager, and SPAC has the authority to advise the city manager's office on art locations or art within the public art collection. So our job is to advise the city manager's office. There's a lot of art that will have to be moved. A group came together to do the move for the library. I think that is potentially something we could explore as well. A number of commissioners are skilled and we could use skilled hands to do this. I think Erin and I will work on understanding what can be covered underneath the project and what is going to be the responsibility of SPAC. And then we'll need to understand if it seems like the library is willing to consider displaying works of art that are currently at Civic at the library. So it will be a project to move those pieces to the library. It will also need to be decided where those pieces are displayed. There are people who helped with the display of art at the library who are still around. So potentially, one recommendation or advice that you could give the city manager's office is to pull together professional and qualified members of our community to help us with the move and display of art at the library. And I think that would also make the library most comfortable, is that they had those qualified individuals helping decide where the locations were placed as well.
I'll just add to that, we are, as part of the project, obviously we're moving, furniture, all kinds of things, and we're hiring a mover contract for that work. It's a little bit, so we're gonna get who we get. Initially I was gonna include some art relocation by that contractor. I have since removed it. I didn't feel comfortable with, I don't remember, Chris, if you remember some of the clientele we had moving the library, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to put that level of risk on the moving company. And not only that, I think our prices would increase because of the insurance policy that they probably want to bring on to that work to protect those, make sure those pieces had some sort of protection. So for now, I'm saying moving contractor, whoever it may be, you're not moving art. But we do have our facility staff that we could potentially use to assist. They've moved art in the past and have some qualified people that can do that. There's certainly some of the larger pieces that, you know, would be a little more difficult for someone to, you know, carry over to wherever we were taking it. So that's an option as well.
What's the timeline for? us
Good
needing
question,
to
yeah,
get
probably
out
should
of
brought that
there?
up. So we, I kind of alluded to it, we're gonna start construction in July. That's our current anticipated timeline, very soon. We are gonna be moving, kind of moving staff in 2 stages. The first is gonna be the first week in June. We're moving majority of the 3rd floor and a portion of the 2nd floor to a different location. And then following that up in early July, we're moving the courts and all of their services to another location. So it would be great if we could kind of in parallel do some of the similar move with the art in that kind of June timeframe, if possible. So.
Kathleen and I did a walkthrough of the city manager's suite and the council chambers. The good news is that I think we located everything that was on the list, and there really isn't that compared to the library. There's a lot less to move. And then we did look in the library. There is what's known as the art hall, which it's been by a nonprofit. That's going to end in mid-June, so that space opens up, and then there are other spaces in the library, which could, at least on a temporary basis, I think could house those pieces. There's some very nice work in the city manager's office. Kathleen also mentioned that there's a Bill Blick's piece that's in one of the south-facing kind of entryways. It's bolted, you know, that's going to take some work to.
Oh, like the wings outside? Is that what
Yeah,
those are?
whatever, it's kind of an
Yeah.
organic type thing, that's
I
it.
keep calling them dragon wings, but.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could see that now. But the other, we went down to that storage, that subterranean storage space
Yes.
where the Wayne Taysom bronze panels from the council chamber doors are stored.
Yes.
So I don't know if your architects have considered whether those pieces can have a home back in the civic center.
That's the goal, yeah.
Great.
They've seen them, they're aware of them, obviously, yeah, they're not only those pieces, but there's been some other items around the civic that I don't think are necessarily considered art, but are kind of cool. That they're trying to maybe potentially repurpose in the new improvements.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Those, probably because of a recommendation from Kimberly Fitzgerald, the entire door, the doors which contain the panels are all stored. All the hardware, all the doorknobs, and she believes in, should this ever be recited in its original setting, you'll have all the nuts and bolts, they're all there.
Yeah, I don't think we would use them as a door.
No, they're too heavy.
Yeah, I think they would be as a panel of some kind, on a wall or something like that.
But maybe your movers could handle, they weigh a ton.
Yeah,
Maybe the movers could help
we're,
move those heavy things, because
yeah,
it's not a
no,
they won't be wrapped, and it's someone with real equipment would need to.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I think again, I would lean on facilities for that effort. They were the ones that originally put those in that space. We're working with the contractor to determine, potentially can some of that art stay in that room, kind of around the improvements. We're not doing a whole lot, on the first floor as far as improvements go. And that location specifically, there's no like seismic work or massive construction equipment. Really what we're gonna see on the first floor is if there's ceiling tiles, we'd be removing the ceiling tiles, providing some new lighting, we're calling it a shell space. We're not spending a lot of money down there, so we know we have to install a fire sprinkler system. So that's gonna be new on the first floor. And there's gonna be minor HVAC improvements, but other than that, that's it. So it's conceivable that we could, especially the doors, keep them where they are out of harm's way. They could do their work around it and then be done. But we were looking at some of the pictures, there's some other stuff that's down there that Kathleen and I were wondering, could it be tidied up a little bit and, get things off the floor? Or do these things find a new home or a new storage space?
That piece, can you go back one image?
Yeah.
Okay, that piece on the lower foreground, that used to hang in one of those vestibule areas at the Civic Center. That's by Dell Hodges, the same guy who did those deer outside the library, as
Are they
is,
interior or exterior?
they were outdoors, but
Undercover,
undercover.
okay.
Those birds, same artist. I don't know where those were.
Those are really cool.
The things that are wrapped in the green, bubble wrap should probably be examined, same artist there, the elk or the deer, whatever that was. The ram. There are other pieces down there that potentially could be considered for gifting to a nonprofit that would be more suitable for their display. Like, I think there's a Madonna and Child, these religious kinds of themes. There is also a rolled up painting by something Staprans, which I believe SPAC accepted as a gift and then later deaccessioned. I haven't had time to go back and check my notes. That it's damaged. It was accepted by the city as damaged. And it should probably be surplus, deaccessioned again if it hasn't been. But I guess the woman who was responsible for the wrapping in the green bubble wrap is gonna retire on the 17th. So we should close the loop with her about where those things were.
Ingrid from facilities.
Just retiring.
Yeah, one of her guys was with us. He said she's retiring on the 17th.
Good for her, but it's sad for us.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
more of that is this more SPAC stuff, but
I think we will wanna break the project up into different sections. Some of the stuff can be relocated, some of it will need to be stored. Some of it, we will need very skilled hands to move. The major one, I think, is an example of skilled hands is this glass piece here. That even the packing and storing of this piece will need special care. So I think one thing that Erin and I can do is work with our facilities to see what their level of confidence is in packing and storing some of these other pieces. For the pieces that will be potentially relocated and stored at the library, we can again advise the city manager's office would be the way that we would go about that. So that would be the action of the commission.
So do we need a plan of when things are gonna start happening and decisions start being made? And how do you wanna proceed with that so that we can help and do whatever we need to do to get it moving? Because that's not a lot of time.
It's
Yeah,
definitely.
so I guess there, maybe what can be done first and just,
Yeah, so I think the best thing I can do is probably work with Susan and Chris to get the names of the people who helped with displaying art at the library, so we can start to form a good body of people who can help us with the project of redisplaying art at the library.
And identifying what those pieces are.
And identifying what those pieces are. So potentially that would be the motion that we could make today, is that we would to how we would advise the city manager's office on the relocation of the big pieces to the library.
I would Actually, I'll ask a question before I make
Yeah.
a motion. So if we were to suggest that a plan come back at our May meeting, that might be too late.
Early May, is that what you mean? Or,
Second Wednesday.
19th, I think it is.
So, we might need to, we may need to bring something back before then. This glass piece, I think, is the most, of everything in the Civic Center, this is the most fragile. And I don't know if it's connected to the base or not, I don't know if it is. If that's a separate part, it may be separate. Everything else, I mean, if the library can agree to repositioning some of the works at the library, those works can be walked across the Peace Plaza and into the library. They're not gonna require a lot of packing.
right,
And none of them are heavy except for this item. So I don't know, I mean, I would move that SPAC act quickly to put together the plan for staging and recruitment of other people to be involved, and if there is a cost, put together an estimate. Quickly.
And should we fold into that we would be advising the city manager's office on where these are to be located? Is that what you were asking for too?
Yes.
That's it, that works for me.
Okay, so that's a motion. Everybody clear on what the motion is? Do we need to repeat it? Okay, all in favor of that? Aye.
Was there a second?
Oh, second, sorry.
Aye.
Okay. Just a
Aye.
second. And anyone opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passed.
Okay, great. And
Great.
I'll be in touch with both Susan and Chris
Yeah.
to make sure we can.
I'll say real quick, I don't know if this piece has a living, the artist is living or around, but I know like with the library, there was a few pieces that the artist wanted to invest their own like time and care to make sure that it was properly moved and stored, and so I don't know if any of the pieces that we're looking at here today, if the artist,
He is no longer alive.
okay. Sometimes the artist wants to like make sure it's safe and they do their own, so if there's any other pieces like that, that might.
Yeah, this is from
No,
1972 and he passed away in 2000.
Yeah, nothing is fragile. Sue Della McCulloch has a piece of
Other than
the
this.
city manager's office, but it's small.
Yeah, this really is the one that when I saw this, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I just have one quick question, I think we can move on, but the outdoor pieces that are in the perimeter, like we're getting the black discs are coming back in, and there's, I don't know what other pieces there are, we've been told that those will be protected from the construction. Are there efforts to make sure that's the case?
I'm familiar with the black discs. Those are going back in near the pond, and those will be outside of the construction zone, so those will be totally fine. I'm not aware of any others that might be going in. If they're generally speaking, if they're outside of the main civic or Peace Plaza area, they'd be okay.
And what about the Peace Plaza? I mean, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, we let's put a pin in that
Yeah.
and I can come back at a later date.
Yeah.
I do want to, before I finish, I know I'm taking way more time than I was supposed to have. I just want to make you guys aware that similar to the library, and Chris was super involved with this. We have a percent of money that goes towards art for large projects like this. And so in the case of like police and this building and library, we actually took RFQs from artists, essentially hired them to present or to provide some artwork for specific to the project. And so we haven't started that process yet, but we'll have something similar to what we did on the past projects. So just be thinking about that. I'm gonna have the design team present a couple like options on where art might be a good place, whether it's interior or exterior. And then we'll bring those to this group and you guys can help us decide where a good spot would be, and then we can start that RFQ process. And so just a little future down the road, but we'll be coming back to you with that.
What's the percentage again? Is it 3?
0.5%.
Half.
0.5%.
Three.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
Do you have a value yet on that?
I can do the math real quick. Well, the library was like 80,000 and it was a $20 million project. This was 40, so it's probably gonna be around 160-ish, maybe a little less than that. And yeah, so smaller projects that have art and art percent don't amount to a whole lot, but when you have these big projects, then it's like, oh, that's something we could actually do something with, so. I don't know if it's you buy art or you have someone create art or that money goes into the pot for future. I don't know what you guys' options are, but.
With the Peace Plaza getting that back in shape too, adding something to it, so. That's great.
So the Peace Plaza will be within the construction zone for a trailer on site for,
Likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Similar to the library.
Yep.
Yeah.
do you expect that any of the like major circulation paths are gonna change around that site? You know, you've got pedestrian access to the Peace Plaza, you've got the whole north side with the kind of the terracing around and steps and what have you. Is that just gonna be kind of stabilized?
Like during construction or after?
Yeah, with the end product, whatever it is.
It'll all stay the same. So with the end product, we'll still have the step down from the the North Plaza down to Mirror Pond. We're hoping to do some improvements at Peace Plaza again to be continued, but all the access points will remain the same. So if we do anything related to site work, it's gonna be improving upon ADA accessibility. But other than that, that'll be the only change.
It would be great to have your design team either come to one of our meetings or invite the Public Art Commission to whatever presentation they're gonna make.
Yeah, there's a lot of hands in the Peace Plaza cookie jar.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions before we move on? Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin and Tony. We'll see you back soon. Thank you for all the
Yeah,
information.
apologize for dominating the meeting.
No, we appreciate having you here.
Yeah, I wonder if, since it's directly related, or if you have anything else to add, Chris, we could move on to your report, any more about the Civic Center.
A bit of timekeeping is that we will need to be out of the room at 1, so as many things, if we can move things on this agenda to future meetings, and you are going to be presenting that, I would recommend doing that. Or if you can keep it very brief, beyond the time or less than the time limit that was set. So under that, I would say everything under the Civic Center Public Art Collection assessment that we've already covered, so we can move on.
Okay, very good. Okay, temporary art, that's also gonna be pretty quick because nothing's really final about anything. It's just to let you know that there has been conversations about the public being able to paint their public facing fences, their private public painting fences with murals. And just related to that, we do have that motion that council passed from Councilor Nishioka about investigating how we could do temporary art in Salem, which right now there's no outlet for that through the commission or anything else. So it was suggested that we kind of fold in our conversation about the fences into temporary art, or like the street painting program, maybe it would go to another department in the city. So there's a lot of moving parts that aren't really moving yet. But just to say that it's in the ether, and I will be working on this whole temporary art idea, and I don't know if we want to form a subcommittee, if someone else wants to look into it. It might be also something that could get folded eventually into the public mural review. Because you guys are looking into code and what needs to be changed on that level, and possibly the temporary art code changes that might be necessary could be proposed at the same time. So, maybe we wait until your report and then, kind of see how that feels to you. Figure that out. So I don't think I wanna make a motion or anything right now, just kind of really know the best in there.
Great.
Okay. And the, moving on to the spec presentation, the neighborhood presentation went well, except there was a miscommunication about the format for sending the presentation. I sent it as a PDF, thinking it would be easier, and then it got transferred into a PowerPoint from the PDF, so we lost all of the nice art that graduated. And there were a lot of technical difficulties, so it was a little bits and starts, but it did get a good reception, and we did, there are neighborhoods that would like us to present. They were saying, oh, come to our main meeting. I was like, "Oops, wait a minute."
Slow down.
But however, I did want to make a motion that we begin, going to the neighborhood associations this year. Anyone else, I'm available to do it, but if maybe in your own neighborhood association, maybe you would want to do it. And start beginning with Grant Neighborhood Association meeting, which is May 1st, I think. And I'd be presenting to them, which is my neighborhood. So the motion is to begin that process of presenting to the neighborhood associations over the next year or so. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second
Okay, all in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great.
Brian is presenting at the
My neighborhood
scan
association.
meeting tonight.
Well, you don't have the presentation though. It would
Well,
be the-
yeah, we can, I need to talk to you and Kathleen. They want me to kind of do a report every month, just of like what's back.
Great.
So it's more of a general, like, here are the things we're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's now on our agenda at the grant
So
meeting.
it's, yeah,
So, I don't know, what's your, you're in the same,
Yep.
yeah.
Our neighborhood is pretty well informed in general, I think,
Yeah.
around those issues.
I think there's some neighborhoods that are more, active than others. So I think we should maybe start with those that have a lot of people that come to their meetings, and then kind of work our way to the smaller ones. But I will reach out to Irma, who's the head of neighborhood services, and get all of I think I might even have all the chair emails, and then send it out and try to schedule the presentations. Okay, Slow Art Day was, I thought, Kathleen came, brought her family.
yeah, it's,
Carl and Brian were there. It was not, we didn't have a big crowd. We had maybe 15 or 16 people. It was just in a small area.
maybe the perfect amount for that space and for the first year.
It
I think.
was, and the fact that Nancy Lindbergh was there.
Great.
And other, people that had been involved in
Her
STAC
family was there.
and family was there. And people were really, really engaged, and we had a great discussion about the work and about, telling them about SPAC and the collection. And it was, to me, a complete success, especially because we got really good coverage in the, city cover, the Salem Reporter and Statesman Journal, and the Abigail Collins from the Statesman Journal came and stayed the whole time and took really great photos. And so it did everything that I had hoped it would do in terms of outreach. It just keep, and I'd love to keep that momentum going with the presentations and anything else that we can do. It was suggested that we do other events around the collection, similarly, just to have discussions, maybe schedule, say, hey, we're gonna be at the library and anyone who wants to come and talk about that on the wall. So that's something we can talk about in the future. Library collection. Accession.
The agreement has been signed. I'm not sure, I know they went back and forth, I don't know what provisions were amended. This work has been hanging in the library for many years. I would suggest that we look at, well, first of all, I would be very interested in just reading the appraisal that the Library Foundation did of that collection. And then I think the label should be updated with the fact that the ownership was transferred from the Library Foundation to the City of Salem. Put a date on it and just update. There should be a document that you have with all those labels and just get those produced.
Do we need to send a formal thank you for the donation of the work to the city, or some kind of acknowledgement from the commission that we're grateful?
And I'm meeting with Kate, who was the president, is that?
She was a staff to the Library Foundation.
Okay. And this Friday to talk about what the appropriate thank you would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else about the library collection? We did get from Eileen Cotter did supply us. I was looking for actually her piece in the library when I first got there. I knew she's a House back member and was very instrumental in curating the work in the library. And I wanted to know where her piece was, and they didn't know how to tell me that information at all. So I mentioned that to Eileen, and she had we now have a listing of where in the library all the pieces are.
Okay.
So it would be great if at some point we could have a way to, first of all, have the library staff know that. So if somebody asks, oh, where's the Carl Hall?
Yeah.
But also maybe and online indicate where the pieces are in the library. So maybe that's something we can talk about in the future.
Definitely. And just we will find the appropriate way to thank the Public Library Foundation, but what a generous gift. Incredible. So it's a very exciting thing that this transfer is complete. So there will be more celebration to come, but it is the first time that we get to say, yes, that transfer is complete, and it's a very exciting thing.
One thing, Chris, I wanted to ask you, people were asking, they wanted to take these home, and there's one in the library. We had books out and the Louis Bunt's book and there was Carl Hall catalog. First of all, are there more of these available? Second would we be able to talk to OAS about digitizing it and putting it online? Because it's such an important, I learned so much about the history of the collection, because I was talking to people about it. How would we go about doing that?
I can make that request. There are some copies of this publication in some of the boxes that we found in that lower level storage, not a huge quantity, but as the stuff is packed up in the Civic Center, it would be great to keep an eye out for, how sometimes it's a box, there's stuff in it, it goes back to like X. Let's just dump it. We should make sure that these are archived. I actually have some of the parent files from this publication because we had to buy them back from a designer who produced them. Anyway, I won't go into that. I think it would be pretty easy to pull this stuff together, and actually you may have folks in the city who could do that. If we can just get on their schedule of work. I can get those files to you.
Okay.
I have them on my desk. There is no file that I have of the entire publication. The city contributed to this, you don't need permission from Oregon Artists Sears Foundation. I'll just get you the
Can we
files.
just scan pages?
I'm sure I have a higher resolution, than just scanning them.
But if it's for the whole thing.
Yeah.
you want it-
Yeah, I've got it.
Oh, you've got the whole
Yeah.
document, okay, great,
Yeah, they just need to be.
I see, okay, well, if you need help with that. Electronically. This is. Okay, subcommittee reports. Public mural program and application review subcommittee. Who's gonna talk about that? Brian or?
Yeah, I don't know, we don't really have a spokesperson designated yet.
No, I think you've done the most work on it though, Brian, if you don't mind.
Sure, okay, well, I took a couple notes just in case. So I briefly mentioned, and I think Carl and Spencer had to go by the time we got to it at the last meeting, kind of our approach on the subcommittee and breaking it down into kind of phases. And, like the first phase would be the really easy stuff, and then going from there, what would take longer and like actually redoing parts of the application and making that proposal. So we're kind of in that very beginning, the research, even before phase one, we're kind of getting our bearings and trying to wrap our heads around all of this, because it's like most things, it's way more complex than you first think. So, we've done some things, let's see. What I think maybe our next phase of research is to really get a handle on the code. And I think, Kathleen, you said a couple times, we need to be code experts. Because that's a big part of this, is identifying the code and what it means, because a lot of time when I read code, I go cross-eyed and I say, does anybody know what that meant? So, getting really familiar with that and then being able to compare that to other applications. I did a little bit of like preliminary research of comparing it to Portland's application and Eugene's, and then I kind of asked AI to help me compare it to cities of the same size of Salem and to have a more comparison that might be what would be considered a little like easier from an artist perspective, and then I went international, said, okay, how about around the world, what kind of cities and countries that are about the same size of Salem. And so I just a few days ago, we didn't get an official meeting, we've been kind of communicating through email, posted some of my preliminary research on that. And when you work with AI, you kind of have to figure out, is there any artificial intelligence errors, make sure that that's legit. But luckily it has a lot of sources, so you can find that information. So we're kind of in this beginning of the research phase. Is where it stands now, but I think we're all real busy, but really excited to keep working on this. That's kind of the main update. Do you guys have anything to add or subtract anything that I said?
I think that covers it pretty well. Yeah, there's a lot to do. I think there's a lot we can do to streamline the process. I think there's some low-hanging fruit that we'll kind of identify first, and then after that, it's really talking to lawyers and code officials and seeing what else we can do.
Did you, when you kind of looked around for cities of similar size, did any city crop up that surprised you? Or you thought was a good model to look at?
I would have to look back at the notes because I just was kind of gathering all of that data. But there were a few, like especially I really like the ones in different countries. I just thought that was really interesting. And I was a little bit surprised the ones that they picked in the US. I wish I could remember a couple off the top of my head, but it wasn't cities that, or it's that part of AI where I'm like, oh, that, I don't feel like that's, that has 200,000 more people, almost twice as many people. That's not really the same size, things like that. But there was also other programs, of like leaders kind of in the art community, like Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And Chicago and places like that had a lot of really good information in what they do and how they built this ethos, which I would love to see Salem too, of like, why is art important? And then for like the people that want more economics of it, like the return on investment and things, kind of giving us talking points of why art is important to a community, so.
You might wanna look at Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
They have I mean, they've really blown it out of the water with an international festival of murals, but it probably started smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe keep it in this country so that you can actually reach out to the people and talk to them and say, hey, how did your city, do this? And just, try to, maybe not having to reinvent the wheel, but just recommend how we can change our wheel,
Yeah.
But do you have any kind of time frame of when you think you might?
I wanna put a realistic timeframe on the research. I just think the research component of this is massive. And so the information that you will gather for us as a commission will be so invaluable, and that we don't wanna rush the research phase of really understanding what are we even talking about? What are we talking about when we're looking at putting murals in public spaces in our city? That's a pretty big scope. So I appreciate so much you guys doing the research and looking into the code, other cities for how they do it. It's going to be a long project. This is a long-term project. This is not a short-term project. So we're in phase 1A, research.
Yeah.
And it will be, I expect, months of research before we actually take action on anything.
I have a question. When we, as a subcommittee is working on that, how do we kind of share because I know there's rules with the city and, that's why we have a subcommittee. When we find something particularly interesting in our research, do we share that with you first and then that's how it could be spread to other people? Or do we wait until we want to present one big giant piece? Or I don't know how that works.
If there's something that can't wait till the next meeting, you can definitely share it with me. I would, as you get up and going as a subcommittee, I think when you're meeting outside of this, you will decide the most important information that you want to present to the larger group on those topics, what you find in your research, and that's what you'll use during your subcommittee report here.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Anything else to add? Okay.
Did we ever get the names of the other artists who worked with Eddie on the Madison Street mural?
He is not responding to my inquiries. If anybody has his personal information, feel free to text him.
Yeah, I did, and he didn't respond, but Eric Tapkus is another artist in town. He gave me some names. I didn't write them down at the time, but he would be a resource and he probably would know, he knew the genesis of the mural and who was involved, and I can try to reach out to him again, but I know he was.
And if you have the contact for Eric as well, you could reach out and you can copy me.
Art sculpture acquisition.
We can very quickly say that it's been shared with urban development for their review, and it will be reviewed over the next couple weeks.
Did you look into, I forget who it was, the entity about, simplifying the whole thing?
Yes, the request is being considered. We'll see if they provide us with any feedback on that.
I bet a lot of it is boilerplate.
Yeah, I think so.
It's gonna be hard to alter that language. I think we should just realize that that's where we are in that situation.
But well, at least they know, and we'll see if they can change that template at all. I'm not expecting it to, but maybe.
It just seemed like so much, a lot of redundancy that complicates. But if it has, the important thing is to get it out. Do we have, what was our timeline in actually making it active?
Well, we will see, after we hear back from urban development. I'm hoping late spring still, potentially. I'm hoping we're close. We'll see if urban development needs any major changes.
If they wanna meet with it, do you think they'd wanna meet with us?
Potentially. I have a meeting with them next week, so we'll see what next steps are.
We're probably back by a couple weeks at least, a few weeks at least
Yeah.
from the original timeline. I will, just on this topic of the downtown stuff, I will say that the sidewalks that have had the streetscape improvements recently really look great and clean and fresh as opposed to some of the ones that haven't had it yet. Like the new stuff looks really terrific.
Anything else on the acquisition? Okay, social media and art database.
Yeah, so we put a post up, they put a post up last week for Slow Art Day. And Nancy's work, so that was the feature. And then this month, we're gonna do a feature on all of the wraps, the utility wraps, so that'll be great now that we have some great photos of those. They have mentioned that they still want me to condense the posts, which I'm trying to do. At the same time, the point of these posts is to provide information about the artworks and the artists, so I'm trying to find that balance with Kathy. So hopefully we'll figure out what works best for that. And then in terms of the database, so before we met officially here, I did come in a little early and talk to Susan and Kathleen about my progress on the database. So I have gone through the entire database at this point, and made essentially kind of did an audit of what information we currently have on the database and what information is lacking. That does not mean that that information does not live somewhere. It just means that information is not currently in the specified folder for that artist or artwork. And what I found was there is a lot of information that is lacking, which I kind of figured to be the case. But now I have just a visual of that as well. So there actually is not a single artwork that we have everything for. And by everything, I mean a photo, the city approved inventory form, a label, the provenance information, and then optional or kind of if we have press clippings, if we had conservation done, a review or report, anything like that. I have columns for all of those though, so anything that we did have that information is visible now in one place. But you know, like a lot of the library, all those do have labels, they just weren't in those specific folders. That was actually just one follow-up question now that we've acquired those works is, do they have any just kind of place where all that lives, or should we just use essentially what we have?
Yeah, I will definitely reach out.
Okay.
I am sure that they have information. I would be very surprised if they didn't have information.
Yeah, whatever they
beyond what we
have,
have.
yeah, great. But yeah, so essentially this is the start of, again, another very big project. My recommendation is that we do look into acquiring a very basic collection software, so that we have all this information in one place, that it's easily findable, digestible, and we can have, just a little bit more of a professional space to house all of this information. So my next steps are I'm gonna provide Kathleen with a couple recommendations of some databases that I've used or that have been recommended in museum settings. So they're all verified. And essentially there would be a small financial backing that would have to go through these. A lot of them are monthly subscriptions. That being said, some of them start at very reasonable prices. And we would not need anything that's truly substantial or significant for a monstrous collection. So I don't think it would be that much of a financial undertaking. At the same point, there probably will be a small cost associated with it. So I'm gonna send a few options over to Kathleen so you can, we're just essentially gonna ask legal and all that if we need any approval or anything like that to move forward. And if we don't, great, we can kind of plan next steps. And if we do, or if it would be a problem, I think there is a way that we could update what we currently have. I just think there'd be a lot more involved in doing that, and it would not be as professional or official in my opinion. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Do we need a motion to authorize her to look into various, or maybe once you have a
Yeah,
foundation of
I will first check that it's even possible.
Yeah.
On our end, for
Yeah.
us to have a software that we use. Once I know that it's possible, then we'll bring it back to the group, and that's when you guys can make a motion, you can have discussion regarding the different potential software, different pricing around all of that. That will be for the larger group to decide. I'll first make sure that we even can have this software. So,
I think you could make a really good argument for it, just based on the time that it takes to navigate a system that was not created to manage these types of assets.
Yeah.
And, just finding those boxes of records in that underground storage makes me wonder what actually is contained in that. That should be
Yeah,
part of an
absolutely.
automated system that
Absolutely.
would just be more effective in the long term.
Well, thanks, Krista, for doing all that.
yes, thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
And it's gonna be a big project, but it's exciting to finally, I mean, I think it's so important to organize what we have and know what we have, and I think it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah.
This was discussed
Yes,
and advocated for many years ago.
great to see there's progress on a lot of these
Yeah.
things, it's really great.
I have a quick question. I take a lot of photographs. Are you interested in seeing them of public art down that belongs to the city?
Yeah.
Okay, then should I send them to you?
Yeah, yeah,
And then you can decide if you want to save them or not.
sure,
Or you
that'd be great, yeah.
Great.
Does that work, Kathleen?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect, yeah,
definitely.
cause actually in some of the folders, there are Chris Darcy files that I think they've just uploaded some photos that we sent them. So yeah, feel free to send
Okay,
over
great.
and, yeah, that'd be great.
And if you do have access to those ones that I retouched, that you could put in folders. I mean,
Yeah, that I don't know.
Cause I think I did a dozen or so.
Okay,
Where I just cropped and, did the best I can, and I think they're better.
okay, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know, do you want me to just send them to you? Should I send them to Chris, or you have them anywhere?
if you don't, you can send them
I'll send-
directly,
I'll send
and
them,
why
and
don't
I-
you just copy me?
Sure.
Okay, and I think, it's kind of fun for me to do it, I just, photo retouching, so I'll try to
Yeah.
do my best on whatever I can.
Sounds great.
If you could send me that link, is it the same link to that we have to this database with the photos? It's the same one, right, or is it?
It should be the same one, yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
can't get that on.
Yeah.
And also, the work in the library is pretty easy to just go and take photos, if I happen to be there, I'll do that.
Yeah, I think a lot would be, and that actually, I guess, is a question too, so I know. Like for social media, they don't want any photos that I take currently. That was like some of the stipulation, they were like, we only want city approved images.
That's interesting.
That being said, I'm happy to do it for a lot of them, because I know there isn't always time to go and, properly rephotograph things and everything
Yeah.
like that. So I don't know if you could just follow up on that maybe.
No,
and,
definitely.
that also was a previous person in that role. But absolutely, yeah, there are a lot of images right now. Essentially, they're just kind of cropped a little strangely or could very
They're
much be
awful.
just,
They're awful.
and a lot of these too, even for social media, you don't need a super crazy high quality camera to take a photo for that. And that would give us a little bit more flexibility on some of these too.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I think some of them would need to be professionally photographed. And some of them, when there's glass involved and, might need some tools and things like that. But yeah.
Eventually, yeah, probably will. I mean, and the whoever's doing it for the wraps, have those been approved? approved by the city? I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
those were
understand.
taken, yeah. by the
Yes.
city.
So it was the city,
Yes.
because that has
Yeah.
what they're,
Mhm.
so we
Yeah.
have those.
Yeah.
And did we find out who did the photography on that to see if?
Yes, yeah, and I think I shared those with Krista. And his name is David, and
And
he's
it's,
one of our graphic designers here at the city.
okay, and could we possibly get him to photograph?
I think possibly, yes, once we have a handle on what it is we're wanting him to photograph.
Yeah, I think right now it can just be one-off kind of things if we wanna
Okay.
use something. Obviously, taking photographs of everything again is a very large project, so until we have a clear path,
Okay.
but we know that. And someone here can.
Yes, and we have, this is our 8-minute warning.
Okay, maintenance. Chris, I know you've been taking a close look at some of these pieces.
Well, I went back over to the corner of Chemeketa and Liberty and photographed the nicks and dings on the receptacle piece. It's not the receptacle, it's receptacle, FYI. And there were actually more than I remembered. So what I did not do, so I sent those to Kathleen. What I did not do is to send, what I hope I have a photograph of the piece within the construction zone of that Liberty Plaza building. I need to go back in my files and look at that. I also think that I know I have photographs when the piece was originally installed. So I will need to follow up with you on that. That's all I
Great.
really have.
Does Public Works involve themselves anymore with this, before it was Public Works that was helping out when we needed something repaired that was easily
Yeah.
repaired?
Mhm.
Are they still?
Yeah, and it's our city facilities. Who helps, like they were the ones who were secured the cube
Okay.
and things like that. So, and sometimes, yes, repair can be done by our facilities team.
This is not one of those situations. It's down to all the powder coated. It's down to the basic steel. Multiple places. It's not like somebody's gonna come in.
So it would have to be completely redone professionally. So
Probably.
we'd have to make a recommendation and get estimates and things like that.
Yep, I'm
Or-
doing a little research on all of it, and so we may need to take action in the future on that one.
Black discs, I guess they're gonna be reinstalling, but we don't have a date.
We don't have a specific date yet, but here in the next few weeks, we should have reinstallation once the final date is settled on. I will share that with everyone.
And Chris, the people that you said should be involved, what is their connection?
I didn't,
Mhm.
I believe Ellen Stevens, longtime activist, used to live in, by McKinley School. Saw that the discs were being restored or removed.
Mhm.
She knows the woman who donated the piece and said, maybe she'd like to hear about it. I believe that's how this got started.
And I will let them know, I will let the interested community members know once I have the date of reinstallation. And they can choose to celebrate however they want. The SPAC as a commission can also decide, perhaps closer to summer when the weather's nice, maybe we want to have a moment out there with the piece and invite the community to that. That can be your decision and something that we've talked about in the past. I don't know that the timeline is pretty soon. I don't know that we'll have time to plan something before the next meeting. But maybe at our next meeting, you guys can consider if you want to do something further.
I wonder if we could just put it out there, through a social media post. That this is happening, that because it might be an interesting thing for people to come and witness, and it's also getting it out there in the community that something's happening.
Mhm.
Just as I said, to kind of keep the momentum going, just say, hey, this is, so I don't know, it depends on when it's happening.
Mhm.
And, we could get Statesman Journal to come out and take some photos while it's going on. get a little more publicity out of it, possibly, if it's not too, we can reach out to them now that we have that connection.
Yes, yeah.
And just say, hey, you wanna come photograph this thing that's gonna be going on? So let's keep in touch.
Great.
Okay. Labels for the collection, I think we have, what, 4 minutes?
I'll bring a report back to the May meeting.
Okay. Commissioner comments, I just have a couple of things to announce. At the Willamette Heritage Center, the studio at the Mill, artists are having an open studios. We only do it 3 times a year. I'm one of the artists there. It's on April 26th on Saturday from 1 to 4. You can come, and there are 9 artists there to come and see what we're up to. You can have lunch at Taproot. You can see the other tenants down there that sell cool stuff. The other thing is that there's going to be an exhibition that I'm involved in, that I'm co-curating at Salem Art Association, that opens on May 2nd, and it's called Persistent Voices. Persistent Voices, 6 artist responses, and it's basically about the female experience. And it's gonna be up till June 29th. Anybody else?
Yes, we did kind of an orientation meeting with Carl. The website and the content and the order of which information is produced or presented came up, and I think that we should put that on for a future meeting to look at how that might be reorganized for better public engagement.
Absolutely, that's right.
Yep.
Anyone else? Anything else? To add? Okay, meeting adjourned. I think we're 2 minutes.
All right.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.